how do we push for the change that we want and not become complacent or allow others to become complacent? And at the same time, give a little bit of flexibility that we're talking about big complex systems change that needs to take.
Well, it's sort of, and it's both and, right? And so, and it's sort of, and I definitely, so I teach grad students courses around, related to DEI. And one of the biggest struggles is understanding the difference between individual versus institutional change, right? Individual versus systemic change. And yes, they are all connected. Absolutely. And so on that sort of individual level, though, interpersonal, person to person, we have to have patience with each other, because we grow up and we live, and especially US context, in a society that does not teach us to have these conversations, that does not teach us the whole story of history. And we live in a country where the vast majority of us live with people that look like us, that pray like us, and have the same class background as we do, right? So we don't have a lot of experience outside of that. And so we rely on messages from media or whatnot, or from history, which we know doesn't have all of the sides. And so we grow up with this misinformation around people who are different than us. And so how do we have patience with each other as we try to unlearn that, right? As we try to sort of, I think I use the word socialization, with my parents, like how do I have patience with them in terms of how a lifetime of socialization that told them something about a certain identity. People can change. I mean, that's what human nature is, where we can grow and we can change. And so how do we, I think that's why I always say, if equity and inclusion were easy, we would be there. But this is why it's hard, right? Is that we can't vilify people right away. I mean, granted, there's definitely people that I'm talking the vast majority of us who want to do well, but we mess up. And, from my from one of my marginalized identities being queer, right? I hope, I want straight people to help and get on board and advocate and be with me, but that doesn't mean you're not, if you're straight identified, you're probably going to mess up at some point along the way. And so I'm going to offer you grace in that. If you're still intentional, if you're still supporting me as a human, I will offer you grace in messing up with me if, let's flip it around, you offer me grace in one of my privileged identities as I stumble over something.